Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and today we're talking about Expanded and the ban, which is, it's been announced, but it currently has not happened yet, of Medicham V, and the kind of weird situation surrounding it, and we'll talk about some other bans as well, and how this card is different here. But anyways, I talked about this a little while ago, more like closer to when it happened, and I spent a bunch of time talking about it with Uncommon Fossil on the podcast. But we also talked about some other stuff, and I figured I wanted to dedicate its own video to it because it is a really interesting situation. And I've looked into a little more about it and some of the reasons that people are potentially thinking it might be banned. And yeah, I mean, I've heard I've looked around, and it's pretty interesting, as we'll see here. But anyways, the banning of Medicham V is happening in Japan on the 20th in Expanded. I guess if you're not familiar with Expanded, Expanded is the format that is black and white on. In Pokemon TCG Live, it's actually Sun and Moon on, but the bans are all based around the black and white on format there. And it is a little different in Japan than internationally. There's just some different cards, but it's not very different. It's essentially the same. And on top of that, they're run by different like companies or something. It's just a little complicated. Anyways, this is going to be banned in Japan, probably likely banned later internationally because that's normally what happens. Anyways, so what the card does is it's got Yoga Loop. I'll pull it up here, actually, Limitless, and it also has Smash Uppercut. Smash Uppercut is like kind of bad. It's not horrendous. I had played this card when it was in Standard, and you'd use it. But anyways, the thing that matters is the attack Yoga Loop for 2 colorless. You put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon, and then if your opponent's Pokemon is knocked out by this attack, you take another turn after this one. You do skip Pokemon Checkup, which doesn't really matter, but it is a thing. And then also, if one of your Pokemon used Yoga Loop last turn, I'm pretty sure this is the only Pokemon with Yoga Loop. I'm very sure, actually. I know nothing else has the same effect, certainly. I can't imagine there's another Pokemon with the same attack name with a different effect. That isn't really a thing. Anyways, though, this will matter, as we will talk about, I think. But then you can't use this back-to-back turns, right? Because then you'll be able to take infinite turns, theoretically, and then that's obviously kind of broken. You need to like get your opponent's Pokemon pretty low, but I'll talk about that a little bit. But anyways, Medicham V is, I mean, when it was in Standard, it was fine. You could pair it with, so there was a few ways to pair it. First of all, I will say it is 2 colors here. You can pay this with double color energy or double turbo energy. Double turbo doesn't have any negative effect on this attack, and double colorless is fine as well. That's better. And then you also have rapid strike energy. There's a bunch of different options there. But anyways, you have those to attack for 1 energy, and then you also could pair this with rapid strike stuff. Rapid strike was a deck, or a bunch of different decks where you would be able to attack with this and or like attack with other things, set up damage, then attack with Medicham V and finish things off. And it was just useful in some situations. Fitting in pretty well with the deck. It wasn't broken. It was like pretty decent. And then you could also pair it with something like Iron Valiant EX, which lets you another ban in Expanded of Scoop Up Net. Iron Valiant EX isn't the only reason, but is the official reason there. But then this places damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon. It's still in Standard, rotating pretty soon. And then if you place enough damage counters, which doesn't need to be that many, just a few, then you can use Medicham V to finish off a Pokemon, say like 70 HP, which is pretty common. It Expanded, I think it's common. 60, I think is pretty common as well. And Medicham V can then finish that Pokemon off and then take an extra turn, which is pretty easy to do. It's not like Medicham V is finishing off a Pokemon. It technically is, but you're also putting all the damage counters on through the use of an ability to place them on, which we'll talk about as well. But again, you can't take back-to-back turns, so it theoretically shouldn't be too crazy there. But then this is what PokeBeach has said here. They didn't elaborate on the ban or the reason. It seems to be an obvious interaction that makes it broken. In the past, Pokemon only bans cards when they create unbalanced play. We'll talk about some bans. And then it's possible there was or will be an unfair combo with a card in a recent or upcoming set. Looking at the recent sets, I'm pretty sure there's nothing like that good with the recent sets. With Medicham V, recent in Japan or upcoming internationally with Perfect Order internationally and or Ascended Heroes, which are 2 sets that are fine, but I don't think they have any synergies in the Medicham V, really. However, there's some speculation, and I think there's a leak card as well, which I did take a look at. I don't know if it's actually a real card, but it is a Mega Greninja EX. Mega Greninja EX is essentially confirmed to be coming out because we're getting Ninja Spinner, and I mean, Mega Greninja is going to get a card, right? So, anyways, Mega Greninja EX is obviously going to be Stage 2, and we've seen a bunch of Greninjas with similar abilities to this one, and people are thinking that it's going to have the same ability as Greninja Break, which is similar to this Greninja. You discard a water from your hand, and then you put 3 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Greninja Break, I was going to show it. I guess I will show it. It's like sideways, so it's kind of a pain to read here. But anyways, you discard 1 water, then put 6 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon, and yeah, this allows you to. It doesn't need to be in the active, but it allows you to place a lot of damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. As I said, there's a lot of Pokemon with like 70 HP. You can go ahead, you can Greninja, or like Mega Ninja in this theoretical situation, and then you can Medicham V, and then if you do that, then you can take an extra turn pretty easily. That being said, that doesn't seem that good. I mean, you could theoretically do that with Greninja Break or other similar things, and I mean, Greninja essentially sees no play in Expanded. Okay, there's actually not that many expand tournament results, but I looked through them on PokeCow Book, and yeah, no Greninja there. I am moderately familiar with the expanded metagame. I guess compared to most people, I'm pretty experienced with it because people don't really know much about it because it's mostly, or okay, people outside Japan don't know that much about it. It's mostly played in Japan. But anyways, Greninja is a card that where there's theoretical Mega Greninja. I heard a lot of talk about it as potentially the reason why Medicham V is getting banned. I don't think that makes that much sense. Also, Ninja Spinner is releasing on March 13th, which is not the same day that this card is being banned. Be banned in between set releases, which is kind of weird. So it might not have to do with the card in a set, though I think it might. If we take a look at some other banned cards as well to see why. Wait, how do I do this? There we go. What makes cards banned? They are a handful of things, which are essentially you just win the game, right? Essentially, they all just win you the game on the spot. In different means. So there's Flapple and like Scoop Up Net and Duskull. I guess I'll bring up Duskull here. Duskull essentially allows you to vol it turn 1 going first. There's some other pieces to it, but essentially it does that. And once you do this, oh, I said Flapple. Flapple is not in this conversation. Scoop Up Net is, Duskull is, and then some of the control stuff as well. The control stuff doesn't win you the game by like knocking out all your opponent's Pokemon or taking a bunch of prizes. Instead, it wins you the game, or essentially loses your opponent the game by like removing their entire hand. Where you can do this with like the Amulet deck, which. Where is this deck? Oh, here it is. Got rid of your opponent's entire hand using this like big combo turn 1, and it was just like super nasty. And then Duskull here, again, you can evolve it turn 1, and then you can evolve this into, Dusclops, which isn't here. And what Dusclops does is it, I imagine most people are familiar with it. It puts 5 damage cast on one of your opponent's Pokemon and knocks itself out. Knocking yourself out is like bad, I guess. There's a way to negate giving up the prize cards with Life Dew, which is an ace spec that stops you giving you prizes. I don't think you need it for this combo. You can still use Dusclops 5 times, which does 250 damage to everyone going first, which is like a lot. I played this in live expanded before it got banned a little, and it was very powerful. I actually played in a video. You can check that out on my channel. But ultimately, Duskull is very broken, allowing you to like win super quickly, and there's not really much your opponent can do about it, right? And then you have these infinite combos, and you got Flapple, which is part of an infinite combo. You have Unknown Damage, part of an infinite combo. Unknown Hand's a bit of a weird case. There's a PokeCow Book article that's like pretty good that I'd recommend. It is in Japanese, so I just like auto-translated it, and it was like fine. Auto-translated. Presumably, if you read Japanese, it's quite good. But anyways, that one's a little weird, but for the most part, as I said, they're like either you essentially just instantly win. Unknown Damage, you instantly win with this weird combo where you like replay Pokemon and get a bunch of damage on your board, then you instantly win because of Unknown Damage. And so I think this is closer to what Medicham V is being banned for, an infinite combo. And I've heard some talk, and I have a deck list here that I've also heard people giving as the other reason as to why it's going to be banned, which I think is a little more likely. I think this was submitted to me in my Discord server by Helpful Mark. I'm not 100% sure on that. I've seen it like sent around by a few different people, and I saw like there's this video I've seen. People are like, this is the reason why. In the game, it was like the other person was playing Reggie Draco, which is by far the best deck in Expanded, and then they got like Badooed all game and couldn't do anything. So I think they more so like had a bit of a dead hand, and yes, Medicham V did something, but it didn't like actually do that much. But there was some really powerful stuff here, and you have the Dusknoir line, and Dusknoir place a bunch of damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon. You have Roxy and Coughing as well, so pretty much the idea here is that you're placing a bunch of damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon, but you're not doing this turn one. You could place a couple turn one going second. Theoretically, you could get 4 turn one going second on a Pokemon. So if your opponent's got like, even something like a Badoo or something, you can take a turn one knockout with Medicham V. Then you have Gengar and Mimikyu. Gengar and Mimikyu is very powerful. I'm gonna be completely honest. Like this card it's super good. I think in Expanded it's like pretty good. There have been times when it's like super amazing, I guess. Maybe not even super amazing, but it's a pretty good card with Horror House GX. It's a once per game attack, but it lets you stop your opponent from playing any cards on their next turn, which presumably means that they don't do anything. Theoretically, they could do stuff with what's on their board, but that's pretty unlikely, especially if you're using this turn one, right? Going second, which is the idea here. So the idea is to like lock them up a little bit. And I think you want to maybe Badoo, then Medicham V, then Gengar Mimikyu, then Medicham V. Allowing you to take essentially a bunch of turns in a row. That being said, Gengar Mimikyu isn't actually taking a bunch of turns in a row because, again, your opponent gets a turn there. The Medicham V is also like finishing off Pokemon that are damaged a lot with Dusknoir, but also still doing a lot of the damage. So theoretically, if you just got a little more damage, which you can do relatively easily, it is just 20, then you can get to where you need to be. Yes, Medicham V lets you have more turns, letting you, Dusknoir more times, but you still need to commit resources to do this and things like that. So Medicham V is good within the deck. It wouldn't really work very well without it, but this deck doesn't seem super good. And as I said, the main reason I've seen as to why this is so good is like this one video, as I said, where people are like, someone was playing it and the opponent like didn't really set up, and Badoo was super good. Also, Gengar Mimikyu I think is like super good in this deck, and there's a lot of powerful cards in this deck. And Medicham V seems like a weird one to ban. I will say Pokemon tends to ban the card that they deem worse, which makes sense, right? They want to ban stuff that's less relevant, so they don't like completely ruin like a lot of decks, right? They just want to stop one deck, but like no one's been playing this essentially at all in Japan, as far as I'm aware. At the time of recording this, is that I looked at like the metagame and stuff, and I haven't seen anyone really playing this and really much talk about it, right? So it seems pretty weird here. Obviously, with Dusknoir, it is powerful, but I don't think it's broken by any means. I think it's a little clunky. You look at the expanded metagame, I'll just pull up Reggie Draco. Where is it? Reggie Draco V-Star in expanded. It said it is the best deck. And what it does is it allows you to disrupt your opponent, do a variety of different actions. Dialga GX and itself actually take an extra turn, which is very powerful. You can spread, disrupt, big damage, just a lot of good things. And you can like you're a very versatile deck, right? So the deck is very powerful, and you look at this deck here, and it's a bit more linear, and probably more vulnerable to certain things. Ultimately, though, I don't think this deck is the reason, as I said, why it's getting banned, but we need to look at the wording of the card again. I think I know why, and I've said this in the past. And someone like commented on my video, they're like, "Yeah, this is the reason." And I was like, "Yeah, I agree." I said it in the video though. I said, but anyways, the reason is because Yoga Loop says if one of your Pokemon last gen used Yoga Loop, the stat can't be used. My thought is they're going to do another Pokemon with essentially the same attack as Yoga Loop or something similar, where you're taking back-to-back turns. It's going to be named something different. I think in the video I might have said Yoga Loop 2, and then it would say you can't use Yoga Loop 2 back-to-back turns, but you could use Yoga Loop, then Yoga Loop 2, and then switch back and forth, and then take infinite turns. If it is the same as Yoga Loop, just with a different name, you do need to, take a knockout every turn. So that's like a little difficult, but it's not that bad. There's one Pokemon you can knock out. You can recover it using something like, say, Echoing Horn. And Echoing Horn will put a basic from your opponent's discard back onto their bench. And so if that Pokemon, if it's a Badoo, right, that's really easy. You can go ahead, you can ping it for 10 with whatever. You can literally, I think you can play Risky Ruins. Um, Risky Ruins does, yeah, whenever any player puts a, oh no, never mind, it needs to be on their turn. But yeah, you could ping it for 10 with whatever, right? That's pretty easy to do. And the Greninja people are talking about, like, yes, it pings it, but like pinging isn't that hard. And if it's like you need to do it to be broken, like that shouldn't be like unobtainable. But if it's just a little bit, like if you need to ping it for 50 or whatever, it's like kind of doable. Using something like Greninja or whatever. Again, it is pretty doable there. Meowscarada, EX, whatever. And then you just alternate between the two attacks. That's pretty easy to do because presumably they're pretty payable there. And then that is very powerful, which I think is somewhat ban worthy. As I was talking about the bans earlier, you know, let me pull up. Oh, I think I pulled up all the expanded cards. So, the combo stuff, Flapple, I don't know if Flapple is actually broken. I don't know if Unknown Damage is actually broken. They're very powerful, but it's a very powerful format compared to Standard. And then, they are, like, there's a way to stop it before it happens. It's, like, weird, though, and it doesn't really fit within Pokemon's design philosophy. They don't really like these infinite combos, and so I think that is the reason Medicham V will be banned. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts down below in the comment section, though. Obviously, I talked a lot about these other reasons. I think it is possible. It is I closed the deck, but the one with Dusknoir, Dusknoir is obviously a powerful card, and with Medicham V, you can do some really nasty stuff in Gengar Mimikyu as well. But I don't think that's quite powerful enough, and I don't think it breaks the idea of the format either, unlike how taking infinite turns in a row, I think, would break the idea of the format and lead to a ban. But I don't know. We'll see. I guess we'll see when Ninja Spinner gets revealed and comes out and stuff like that. But as I said, tell me down below your thoughts in the comment section. But I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you like, subscribe. You can also join the channel as a member. Shout out to Martian Cabbage for joining the channel as a member a little while ago as well. But I hope you enjoyed, and as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.